after the Republicans lost the Senate and the House last November, Rush Limbaugh admitted to having carried water for many in the party. Now he's carrying actual fundraising duties on a day when his water is in the news again, as in his drug tests. Our third story in the countdown, the continuing cover-up of Limbaugh's phony soldiers story being turned into a pitch for contributions. The Republican National Committee now turning Limbaugh's ravings into hard campaign dollars. The committee sending an email written by Congressman Eric Cantor to supporters asking them to sign a petition to stand with Limbaugh and the unmistakably and fully contextualized claim that any soldier or veteran who criticizes the war in Iraq is, in his terms, a phony soldier. There's a link where you can send money to the party, bash a vet, and make big bucks. This is the same day Limbaugh proudly told his audience that he's passed another court-ordered drug test after the doctor-shopping, pill-popping charges, and a day on which Limbaugh's echo chamber continued to bash troops like wounded war vet Brian McGuff, claiming he was duped by anti-war groups, continuing to claim any veterans who disagree with Limbaugh must be stupid, a strategy that Limbaugh started, as you will recall, on Tuesday.
Whoever pumped him full of these lies about what I said and embarrassed him with this ad has betrayed him. They're not hurting me, they're betraying this soldier. Now, unless he actually believes what he's saying, in which case it's just so unfortunate and sad when the truth of what I said is right out there to be learned.
Brandon Friedman is vice president of VoteVets.org and himself a veteran of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. He's written about it in The War I Always Wanted, The Illusion of Glory, and the Reality of War. Thank you for your time tonight, sir.
Thanks for having me on, Keith.
All this week, Limbaugh denied he referred to veterans who opposed the war as phony soldiers. He compared Brian McGuff to a suicide bomber, then he denied he did anything of the kind. He's edited the audio that was posted online. He transformed phony soldiers into poor, manipulated soldiers. You wrote a piece today called When Chicken Hawks Attack. You seem to think this goes further and higher than Limbaugh?
Well, I think it does, Keith. What you have Rush Limbaugh at the top, and you have people above him like the RNC, and they push this kind of language that disparages veterans. And the problem with it is it's very influential. People in middle America, they hear this stuff and they repeat it. If I could, I'm going to read you a couple of pieces of mail we've gotten from Rush Limbaugh's listeners this week. And this is written to combat veterans. Do us all a favor and shoot yourself. You are a waste of human flesh. Tell the truth about Rush, you phony piece of expletive. You traitorous bunch of expletive cowards. Rush Limbaugh is a great American and you are a phony. You know, people hear this and they hear it from Rush. And when that stuff is said enough times, it becomes accepted fact. And this is what we saw happen to John Kerry in 2004. And as combat veterans, we're just not going to accept this. We're going to defend ourselves. And, we're just not going to take this from people like Rush.
Other than the stark inhumanity of making a U.S. soldier who was wounded by a car bomber, which was Brian McGuff's story, sound like he is the political equivalent of a suicide bomber, maybe the worst element of this week has been what? This idea that he's propagated that the average soldier could not possibly think for themselves, that if they didn't support everything they saw, there must be something wrong with them?
Well, it is, and that's what people do when they have nothing to fall back on. When their argument has lost all its merit, their argument that our Iraq policy is successful, that's what they do. They fall back, they call us traitors, they call us cowards, they call us phony. They do everything except listen to us when we tell them. We who have been there on the streets of Iraq, we who have been in the mountains of Afghanistan, and they don't listen to us. They don't want to. They just want to call us names.
You wrote also today that this kind of attack seems to be something akin to a game with the far right. Why do you think they are so insistent that all veterans support this war? Is this the Don Rumsfeld thing about how anybody who doesn't understand what the administration is doing must be morally or intellectually confused, or is it baser than that?
Well, they know that if they lose the veterans, which they essentially have if you read the poll data, they know that if they lose us as veterans, that they're going to lose America with their policies. The veterans have now come around, the people who've been there, and said that these policies in Iraq are not working, and we want to do something different. We need to find a solution so that we can go after al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. And, people like Rush Limbaugh, they know that if they lose us, that they've got no leg to stand on. And so that's why they're desperate to keep us. That's why they're desperate to discredit us as combat veterans.
Lastly, what about this news today of it being turned into a Republican fundraiser?
Well, if that's true, that's deplorable. I would think that the Republicans themselves would have a lot to lose by supporting Rush Limbaugh and the comments he's made about soldiers. But if that's what they want to do, then they can do that. But I think the American people are going to see that, and I think it'll reflect in the polls next year.
As Senator John McCain criticized Limbaugh and said whatever he meant, he shouldn't have said it and he should have corrected it immediately. Brandon Friedman with VoteVets.org and the author of The War I Always Wanted. Great thanks for your time. Great thanks for your service to our country, sir.
Thanks for having me on, Keith.
No mincing of